This is not racist. This is not xenophobic. And I can show I'm not racist. I've been black for like my whole life. I say the Sharia law has no place to usurp our Constitution.
It's about to get spicy. We have a Republican, Representative Hunt in Texas, that goes off because of his comments in regards to Texas and the Sharia law. And he's just stating out facts by him as an American and him getting to the point that he's at right now. So let's go ahead and see what exactly he is talking about.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Lopez, you're a 16-year-old sophomore at Wiley High School. Did you ever imagine that your high school in Texas, of all places, our great state of Texas, of course, would become a breeding ground for pro-Sharia material and Islamic conversation?
I would never imagine that we would have a hearing questioning the legitimacy of terror-linked organizations going to schools. I would never believe we would have this, but that's America we live in, and it's a sad situation.
Do you think there's an incongruency in the way you are treated as a Christian in your school, in the juxtaposition of that, and the way that your school is welcoming Sharia law and Islamic doctrine?
Yes, there's a clear double standard.
It's a shame that we are here today, and I'm sorry that we have failed you, but this is why we have this caucus, because we're going to make sure that we get this right and everybody is treated fairly regardless of your race, religion, or creed. To some people in this room, what I'm about to say may sound a bit controversial, but it's not controversial because it's true. America is a Christian nation. We're founded upon Christian values. Our founders believed that our rights did not come from government, but they came from God. Those ideals shaped our institutions, our
both good and bad thoughts of whatever power that you got to come from God,
culture, our laws, and the very moral foundation and fabric of what I know is the greatest country in the world. Now, America is also a country that welcomes people from all backgrounds of every culture and faith. That's actually what is a part of our greatness. And as somebody like me that fought in combat to ensure that anyone could come to this nation and believe what they want to believe and believe in the First and Second Amendment rights, I welcome that more than you could ever believe, because I laid my life down on the line to ensure that that would happen. But let's be clear about something. Assimilation to American values and ideas matter. When we begin importing belief systems and cultural values that are fundamentally
whatever that means, but yes,
incompatible with the principles that build this nation, we should not be surprised when the social fabric begins to fray. Let me be clear. This is not hateful. This is not racist.
No.
This is not xenophobic. And I can show I'm not racist. I've been black for like my whole life, for like 44 years. I say the Sharia law has no place to usurp our Constitution in these United States of America, and especially in our schools, and especially in our public institutions. America's legal system is rooted in the Constitution and equal justice under the law, not religious extremism or parallel legal systems.
Right.
We have learned from many of our colleagues on the left that this tends to be how they tack in this general direction. 10 Commandments, not allowed, bad. Islamic pamphlets, good. 10 Commandments, bad. Free Qurans in schools, good. 10 Commandments, bad. Understanding Sharia law, brochures, good. This is the hypocrisy that we Christian Americans are quite sick of. The same people who mock or
it's interesting. There's bringing awareness, but then there's also like you bringing your awareness to an organization to where they normally wouldn't even allow it, or they've been fighting against other awarenesses. Let me put it like that. Now, the question is why? That's the question.
As America's founding values suddenly become deeply tolerant when the ideology in question is directed against Western traditions and institutions. Meanwhile, Sharia law is normalized and distributed to children in school, while expressions of traditional faith are treated like a threat. Here's how things should work. Math, yeah. Free Qurans? No. History? Yeah. Sharia brochures? No. Science? Yeah. Shahada cards? No. This is a very simple idea that should be understood by all Americans. One of my best friends is a Muslim American, and he is a fighting Texas Aggie, but he actually sees himself as an American first and has fully embraced our culture and what it means to be an American. That's good. That's what we want. That's why we call this place a melting pot. I'm seeing a lot of talk from my colleagues on the left too as we shift toward this reinvigorated talk about Jim Crow and the past of this country. And as someone who is a direct descendant of a slave, as someone whose great-great-grandfather was born on a plantation, I can assure you, slavery is over. Jim Crow is dead. When I go anywhere, I don't see any white-only signs. I don't, I promise you. I am a black man that represents a white majority district in Texas. The great-great-grandson of a man born on a plantation stands before you today as a proud conservative Republican from Texas, as a believer and follower in Christ, and as a believer in what this country can be if we allow equality for not just Muslim Americans, not just Buddhist Americans, but also Christian Americans like yourself. God bless you, young man. You give me a lot of hope for the future of this country. Thank you for having the courage. I yield back the remainder of my time.
I thank the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Hunt. I'll now recognize the ranking member, Ms. Scanlon.
Thank you. I'd like to return to perhaps the purpose of a hearing, which is to establish facts rather than fiction. With that, I'd like to have unanimous consent to introduce a CBS article from February 17th, 2026. Wiley ISD school district investigates how the white Islam group set up on campus without approval.
Without objection.
I mean, as that story and others show, that the school district did in fact investigate why an outside group came in and set up, and in fact, staff members were disciplined for not following school procedures. So let's just pull back a little bit here and try to reground this hearing in some facts, because I think it's been pretty well established by now. There's no credible evidence that anyone in Texas or in the US generally is trying to impose Sharia law on Americans. I mean, it's really, this whole hearing is so offensive. I have a lot of Muslim constituents who are wonderful constituents and participate fully in our community. And, I'm very proud that they're my constituents, and to hear folks being vilified in this way, trying to have this anti-Muslim rhetoric, trying to tar every member of a faith with the worst actions of a few is pretty outrageous, and especially when some of those actions are complete fiction. Look, it is a real change for the Republican Party in this country. Ms. Tyler, in the wake of 9/11, we saw a spike in violence against American Muslims, and then President George W. Bush used the power of his office to defend Islam and American values. He said, and I quote, "The face of terror is not the true faith of Islam. That's not what Islam is all about. Islam is peace." And he reminded us that America counts millions of Muslims among our citizens, and they make incredibly valuable contributions to our community, to our country, and they need to be treated with respect. And our Republican colleagues seem to have forgotten this example and are using the House of Representatives to platform religious bigotry so they can fearmonger in an election year when gas prices are spiking due to an illegal war sparked by an unpopular president from their party. But when the
Unpopular president from their party? Okay, first off, these are the please. Your words. Let's be real. We've seen the maps. Majority of the US voted for Trump. Majority of the US. So you can't say unpopular. The majority of the US voted for Trump. I'm not saying it to be riding Trump, but you're literally lying. Okay? You're literally lying. The majority of the US voted for Trump. Okay? So, cannot say that. Second thing, I will give you the fact that there may be some extremists and taking the situation a little harder than what it may be. I can understand it. And I can understand that not all Muslims are out here creating terror. I can definitely say that. But the idea that's being missed is that there is Sharia law. And strangely enough, there are many Muslim groups. We see in Texas, we see in Minnesota, we seen out in the western, is it Washington? We're seeing in Michigan, where these Muslims that aren't even American come into America holding office and then trying to impose and trying to grow their community, their Muslim community, and what it is that they're doing. The issue with that is we're in America and you're taking, again, the whole assimilate thing. You're taking what it is that's from your country and bringing it here and then try to make it grow here. You have a mosque, you go to your mosque, you do what you do, you remain peaceful. If that's the case, that's the case. You want to grow community, okay, grow a community. This is like, just like with the Chinese, they got their own Chinatown and stuff like that. But you're literally having people in office that is expanding the Muslim, I even want to say the Muslim regime, but that's what it seems like. And again, not everybody that's Muslim is doing this. Not everybody that's Muslim is wanting to just like expand and, have that harsh. I can't remember what it was exactly, but there's a side of the Muslim faith where it's like, we need to take over everything. Not every Muslim is like that. This is true, but it is still rooted in the faith. It is still rooted in their books to do so. So it's like, I don't know, guys. That's one thing that's concerning. You leave a crack. Literally, it's the same thing like if there's like a crack. You say that there's a whole dash and it's filled with a whole bunch of good Muslims. Let's say it's, dash cam, the front of the car, the window. Or let's say a vending window. And there's a crack. That small crack, you leave that crack long enough and it's going to expand and expand and expand. And then next thing you know, the whole window's going to shatter. So with that being said, yes, I can say that maybe the peaceful Muslims overpopulate those that do wish to push out the Sharia law and all that stuff. But who's to say that those that wish to push out the Sharia law are not going to continue to come in or not continue to try to convince the Americans that are here of their faith? And then next thing you know, it's going to be overrun in America and we got a whole war that's happening in America. Who's to say that's not going to be the case? Now, that could be a conspiracy theory. I don't know. But based off of the things that I've seen, the many YouTubers that have been out on the ground, boots on the ground, actually talking to these communities and seeing exactly what's going on, it's kind of like, okay, something is happening in regards to these Muslims and Sharia law. What happened to the whole assimilation thing? I don't know. It's interesting, y'all.
Consequences of this demagoguery for American Muslims and all Americans are very real. You have to look no further than the Islamic Society of Orange County, which last month experienced a spike in threats after Ms. Mecklenburg published some tweets without foundation that they were trying to start a Sharia compound there. It was complete fiction, but it caused a spike in threats.
Yeah, you definitely, the one thing that I will say, like, you definitely need to have the proof. And I'll say, like, for instance, like with Nick Shirley and this whole thing with Somalis, I believe, and Michigan and Minnesota and stuff, and the fraud that's been happening, he's provided the proof. So it's like, yeah, it's there. And it's crazy because they passed a bill in California to stop him from finding the fraud, or for anybody to be finding fraud in any of these organizations and stuff. So that's kind of crazy to me when the evidence has been provided. In these type of situations, it's a little harder to provide the proof for that. And I would recommend, yes, you want this to be stopped before it gets too crazy. But at the same time, it's kind of hard to do that if you don't have full proof. So
can you explain how religious fear-mongering endangers American Muslims in our communities and undermines the religious liberty of all Americans of all faiths?
Yeah, these attempts to paint with a broad brush, to bring all members of a faith.
Why does she look familiar? I did a video and she was in there. I can't remember for what though. And I can't remember if it was something that I didn't like. Unapologetically Muslim American. I mean, that's cool.
To mark them with the actions of the dangerous and few makes everyone less safe and makes everyone less free. I talked in my testimony about the real world discrimination that Muslim Americans face because of their faith, but also when we think about the hate crimes that you've noted, political violence of all kinds is an urgent problem in this country. And as I hear about the threats that have been made to some of my fellow witnesses today, that should disturb us all. And so the more that we feed into misinformation, stereotyping, that makes all of us less safe and less free as a society.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, we've got plenty of examples. I think our colleague referred to some examples of Christian extremists who had gone out and committed violence.
What is violence? Okay, and I will definitely speak against this. How is it that these people are calling themselves Christian and they're being violent? At what point does the Bible say that we need to be violent? I understand there was a bunch of violence that was happening in the Old Testament, but at what point does the Bible call us for us to be violent? So again, talking against all these people that are claiming to be Christians that's out here doing these things to the Muslim people, definitely should not be doing that either, because that's ridiculous. This is crazy, guys. You can't sit here and claim the faith, but you're sitting here acting like warmongers. That's not how we do things. That's not how we should be doing things.
We've got examples of a Tennessee Baptist minister who was an advocate for corporal punishment and even starvation of children. 3 kids died because of what he was preaching, but we don't condemn all Christianity as a result. As you pointed out previously, we have criminal justice and other American laws that deal with criminal behavior. Can you comment further on that?
Yeah, our criminal system takes care of the threats to the extent that there are real threats that have been put in the midst of everything else we've talked about here today. Criminal law takes care of that. But the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution assures that no religious law can supersede those laws.
Thank you.
And that is protection enough. And that's why, these scare tactics are really just that. It's not a real problem in this country.
Well, and that's where, certainly I'm not one who goes about citing George W. Bush often, but the impact of words and leadership matters when people demonize other folks. Mr. Chair, I'd just like to have unanimous consent to introduce an LA Times article from April 17th, 2026, Islamic Society of Orange County under heightened security after online threats.
Without objection.
Okay, so interesting. Let's see. So what do we make of this? Republicans are concerned with the increase in the Muslims, the Muslim communities, the Muslims that's been trying to take office and, trying to etch away at what America is, what it should be standing on, which is Christian values. One can argue about that. That's fine. It seems like the Democrats or the opposite side is saying everything is fine. There's nothing to worry about. There's no law that says that what they're doing is something that they can't do. And again, because of the laws that we have set in place, it's one of those situations where it seems like it can be finessed enough to where it can be a problem later on in the future. Here's my stance. And it's interesting because as of recently, I think it is in California, we have the mayor of Los Angeles or San Francisco, the mayor of Arcadia, California. She pled guilty to being essentially a secret agent for China, an illegal secret agent for China. Yeah, she was the mayor in America for China. So again, not to start conspiracy and stuff like that. I believe that yes, America is a melting pot, but if you are coming from outside of the country, if you are not born here, you shouldn't hold public office unless you've been here for X amount of years, and the government has every right to look into everything that you've done the past couple of years, your travels, question you and all that stuff before you take hold into office. I'm pretty sure that if you're in any type of federal positioning, like IT wise, computer wise, and all that stuff, you have to go through a whole bunch of questioning and steps and hoops just to get the job, that you're not working for another country, that you're not doing stuff for other countries. And it seems like that may not be the case when you're trying to get in political office here in America, or at least in the state level. So to me, if you're going to be in political office, maybe you could be a representative for a specific community. But for you to be a mayor, no, you got to be American. You got to be American or have been a citizen for, I don't know, maybe over 20 years before you can even decide to hold an office. So me, even though my parents are Haitian, I can become mayor. My dad, he can become mayor because he's been in America as long as I've been alive, and I'm 34. But for people that haven't been here that long, no, why the heck would you? No, that doesn't make sense. And they'd have to know everything. Like, your privacy would also have to be out the window as well. There's just a lot going on, and it's like, it's not saying that I don't trust people that's outside the country, but there's a lot going on. And we just seem to be all willy-nilly to just allow people to just come in here and do whatever it is that they want. Hence the fraud that's been happening in some of these states, and the increase in the Muslims and the stuff that they're doing, especially like in New York, where they're outside throwing out sirens and praying and stuff. And it's like, you couldn't do that inside your house. But I don't know, y'all. Interesting stuff. Y'all let me know what y'all think about the situation. At the end of the day, I will always say we the Christians, those that claim to be Christians, should not be violent. We should pray, but we should also be diligent in everything that we're doing. And if something is off, we do it the proper way. This is not how we treat our enemies, even as bad as they treat us. We let the law handle that. That's all I got to say, y'all. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comment section. I'm going to catch you on the next one. Take it easy. Peace.